The land is so big. The choice is so infinite. Where shall we go? Los Angeles or New York?
We will let fate decide. Heads New York, tails Los Angeles. We go to New York. Queens.
The Hillel Academy Class of 1995 presents Coming to America, the real stories, the trials and tribulations of immigrants, men, women, children, who came to the United States to start new lives for themselves and their families.
Hi, my name is Clara, and I and these are my family trees and my maps. And here you can see, this is me and my brothers and sisters, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and my great-great-grandparents. And it's the same thing here. And here are my maps. And all my grandparents came from either Poland or Russia or Lithuania. Now you're going to see the interview with my great-grandfather, Eugene Analyst, who was taking the place of my great-grandfather, Happy Sam.
Connor's great-great-grandfather came over first, and he brought 2 sons and a daughter. They had to find work and then send for myself, a younger brother, and my mother. By the way, I'm playing the role of Papi Sam, who was the name given to my father.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, please.
Was it an eventful journey, or was it a difficult trip? And how long was the trip?
Well, it was by boat in what was called steerage. We were in a big room on the ship with triple-decker bunks. Can you imagine? And I had a top bunk. I guess I was young enough to climb up there, and my brother was too young to climb up there. It was very difficult to get privacy. I mean, there were so many people in the room. What did you do? Everybody seemed to get sick on this boat trip. It was a rough ocean, except me. And there was no dining room. Food was ordered. It was brought into an area in the room where everybody ate. However, the waiters had to carry the trays up over their shoulder, and I would sit on the top bunk and filch food from there, like rolls and a few other items that I could take. Anyway, I had fun. I don't remember how long the trip was, but it seemed to be forever.
How old were you?
I was 10.
And what year was that?
That was in 1906. Well, we were poor, as were many of the Jewish families in the ghetto there. My father was an artisan who got occasional work. When my father was in America, we once had to allow Russian troops to use our house. That is, I was there with my mother and my brother, as for a bivouac. My father was a tinsmith in Vilna, and that meant he worked on roofs, of all things. They use a lot of tin in making the roofs. They didn't use tar like they do here. When he came here, he became a plumber. And soon after, I had to join him as an apprentice, and my older brother, Charlie, was already out of high school, also came in as an apprentice, or had been apprenticed with him before.
Did you find America to be what you expected? Were there a lot of differences or similarities between Europe and America? Let's discuss the food.
Well, the food was interesting in that we saw food we'd never seen before. Usually it's a big joke amongst the greenhorns was bananas, and then oranges were not available in Vilna at that time. There's one thing, though, I thought. The streets were wider, and there were trolley cars all over the place.
My name is Ezra Greenfeld, and my father's father came to the Lower East Side and moved later on to Borough Park and to Rockaway. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. And my father's mother came from Galicia, Poland, to Williamsburg, New York, and then moved to Borough Park. And later on, she came to live with my cousins in Rockaway. And my mother's father, I'm not exactly sure where he came from, but he moved to the Lower East Side. And my mom's mother, she came from Austria-Hungary and moved to the Lower East Side. I'd now like to introduce my grandmother, Bubby Ross.
We came by boat, by way of boat, and it took us a long time. I think it was, I don't know, a very long time till we got to America.
Was the journey, was the trip difficult? Was it eventful?
Well, it was a little hard. We were firm people, always, and the food was a matter of eating actually fruit and vegetables. We had really very little. We didn't touch the meat. We didn't know it was kosher. We couldn't eat it. So we ate very little. Sometimes we had a piece of fish, sometimes.
How long do you think the trip, how long was the trip?
I think the trip was a very long time. From Europe to America was about 30 days.
When did you come?
When I wasn't quite 2 years old.
Okay.
What year?
What year is it?
21.
1921? What were the events happening in the area at your time?
Well, there was always fighting between Russia and Poland. Russia always wanted to get control over Poland, and they had the Cossacks there, and they were fighting, always war going on between the two. Between Poland and...
Where exactly did you come from?
I came from Galicia, Poland. A
Oh,
small town in Poland, Galicia.
Did you come directly to America, or did you stop anywhere in between?
We had to stop because in those days they didn't have enough fuel in their tanks. They had to fuel up every time. We stopped in England.
Did you suffer any prosecution?
Just to fuel up. I don't know how long
Did
it
your
took.
family suffer any persecution or hardships in your country?
That's why we came to America, because my uncle heard that there was going to be a war, and he wanted to get us out before any problems started.
Well, never mind that question. Did you leave any family members behind?
That's why we came together. We waited until we could get enough passageway on the boat for all of us to come together.
Can you tell any differences between the food in Europe and America?
Well, everything was different. In Europe, we lived in a little shtetl. We were afraid to go even to the big town to do our shopping when we went. We just made do what we could get. As far as food goes and clothing and essentials.
How about housing and religious observance? Was that different too? Housing and religious observance.
Well, as we said, we lived in a little shtetl, and we davened together with our neighbors and our friends.
Did you keep in touch with any of your friends or family in Europe?
Now? No. The war wiped out that complete town. There was nothing left there. Whoever was able to get away, got away. Otherwise, it was a disaster for all.
How did you learn to speak English?
Well, since I was a child, I really went to school when I was 6 years old. That's when they started school for us.
What was the new thing that you found best when you came to America that you learned?
What did I learn?
What was the best new thing that you learned when you came to America?
We had to learn the language because there's no such thing as anybody speaking Jewish in public schools. I went to a public school. I had to learn Jewish, but I went to Cheder after school. We went to school till 3 o'clock, and then I went to Cheder for an hour to learn Hebrew. We avoided a terrible war there, and we came as a whole group. We could have come earlier, but my grandmother didn't want to leave any children behind, so we came as a whole group to America.
Hi, I'm Joshua Gar, and this is my family tree in Mountain. This is a family tree of my father's side. My parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents. This is my mother's side, my parents, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, my great-great-great-grandparents, my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, and my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. These are the maps that they came from. This is my father's side. They came from my father's father came from Russia, and my father's mother came from Poland. And this is my mother's side. Her parents came from Germany. Now I'm going to introduce my grandparents. Why did you come to America?
To get away or get out of Hitler's Germany. We were prosecuted in Germany.
Was it difficult to pay for the trip?
Money was not a question. It was just a question of how to get out. The trip was paid for, had to be paid for in dollars.
How did you come to America?
How did we come to America, or how did we get out of Germany?
How did you come? By boat? By plane?
To America we came by boat. We were 3 weeks on a boat, on a freighter.
Was it a difficult trip?
The trip was not difficult. The only difficulty for me was that my father was sick on the boat all the time. And we stopped in Cuba, and he had to get off the boat in Cuba to go to a hospital. But since we didn't have any visas, I was not allowed to get off the boat. I had to continue on with my journey to America.
When did you come?
We spent Rosh Hashanah on the boat, and we landed in the United States on Shabbos Nachma. While we were on the trip, the ship that we were supposed to go on was confiscated in account of the preparation for war. So we were stranded in southern Spain till they could find another ship for us. And we were stranded for about 4 weeks.
Did you leave something behind that you missed?
Did we leave anything behind?
Yeah, that you missed.
In what?
That you missed, that you don't.
Oh, that I missed? No, at the time we didn't miss anything, because we were, when you want to get out just with your life, you don't mind to leave everything behind.
What did you expect in America?
To please air, oh, wait a minute, that's not another. To, what do I expect? Not to be prosecuted, to live as a free human being, not being prosecuted for being Jewish.
What job did you have in Europe?
Well, I had no job. I was a student, and I had to learn a trade. So I worked.
Forced labor.
Yeah.
Dressmaker.
I learned dressmaking, but then I had to stop and had to do forced labor, and I worked in a apprentice. Or in a uniform factory. Before that I worked in a uniform factory where they made Nazi uniforms. And this was also very, how should I say it? Under big pressure, because,
Did you have the same kind of job in America? Do you have the same kind of job?
Yes, I went into dressmaking in Germany, since I had some experience in learning a trade.
What was the best new thing you learned when you came to America?
The best new thing I learned, not to live in fear of my life.
This is my family tree. There's me, then my parents, then my grandparents, then my great-grandparents, and then my great-great-grandparents. And then from my mother's side, it's me, then my parents again, then my grandparents, then my great-grandparents, and my great-great-grandfathers. This is my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather came from Germany. They came and they went to New Orleans. They went to Ellis Island, then they went to New Orleans. And then from my father's side, my grandparents came from Germany and went straight to Ellis Island. And now you're going to meet my mother.
I was 2½. My mother was 33 and my father was 40.
Where did you come from?
We came from Germany, but I don't remember what port we came out of. Probably Hamburg, if that's a port.
Did you come directly to America or stop elsewhere?
We stopped in, we came directly to America. We stopped in Florida. I guess either they refueled or they dropped people off. And then we did not go to New York the way everybody used to come. We went directly to New Orleans. That's where they figured they had more room for more people. They saturated people in different places.
Did you suffer persecution and hardships in your old country?
That's a very interesting question. They had just come out of concentration camp. They now lived in a DP camp, which is displaced person. There was hardly anything to eat. People were dying from sickness after the concentration camps were liberated. There was a boat full of the same people that we were, all trying to find a better life for themselves. Not being able to stay where they grew up because they were already in a different country in the concentration camp.
Did you leave family members behind?
My father's brother and his sister-in-law, and my mother's sister was in Russia. We didn't know where she was, but we knew there was one sister left in Russia. My aunt and uncle came in 1949.
What did you bring with you from the old country?
Just the clothes that we wore and very little money.
Did you leave something behind that you missed?
And that's an interesting question because my mother is fond of telling the story that she had this beautiful carriage for me that somebody had given her, or somebody, one of the society people gave her, and somebody really wanted it, so they convinced my mother that they wouldn't let us in with the carriage. So she sold it to them for nothing. And then she found out, of course, that they were lying, that everybody had carriages here. So she carried me till I was 5.
What did you expect in America?
Just that we would have a better life than we did before, obviously. We had nothing before. Even before concentration camp, before the war broke out, everybody was poor.
Did you find America to be what you expected?
Yep, we certainly did.
Did you keep in touch with any friends or family in Europe?
Just my aunt and uncle. They came over. This is also very interesting. They were sponsored 2 years later by Rabbi Karlebach, which is Shlomo's father. Shlomo's father learned with my aunt's brother in Europe. So they knew them. So they sponsored them and brought them over. My aunt, my mother's sister, this is my father's sister-in-law that was sponsored by Rabbi Karlebach. But my mother's sister in Russia was left in Russia. We didn't know where she was, but we finally got her out in 1969. We brought her to Israel. My parents worked. My mother worked they both worked in factories. My mother worked in a watch band factory. She made expansion bands for watches, and my father was a tailor, and he made uniforms, white uniforms for doctors and nurses, also in a factory.
Did you have the same kind of job in America?
My father was a tailor in Europe and a tailor in America.
Did you have financial difficulties when you first came?
No, Hayas helped, and Lithuanian Society helped.
Did you speak English?
I learned in school. My parents learned out of necessity. They learned in the factories that they worked in and by shopping, the way anybody learns a language when they stay in a country for long enough.
What is the best new thing you learned when you came to America?
Well, obviously, I didn't know anything about being in Europe, so whatever it was already nicer here. But learning English, being able to go where I wanted to go, nobody coming down on us, nobody looking over our shoulder, not being afraid to walk outside the door.
Hi, my name is Elio Shilo, and this is my family tree. This is my father, and this is my grandfather who came from Poland. And this is my grandmother, that's my father's mother, and she came from Hungary. And over here is my mother's family tree, and she was born in Israel, and my grandfather was born in Poland, and his parents were born in Poland too. And from my mother's side, her mother, they were born in Poland, and their parents were born in Poland too. My grandmother came from Hungary to Israel, and she traveled, well, she stayed there, and my father went to California for college, and he went back and he came back again with my mother. And over here, my grandfather and my grandmother from my mother's side, both from Poland, went to Israel, and later on my mother and my father went to New York. Now you're going to see me interview Charlotte Zeton.
You see, at that time, that was 1953, most of the Jews from Bulgaria went to Israel. And almost all my family went to Israel. We were evacuating Bulgaria because we all wanted to go to live in Israel and to be in our own country instead of being Bulgarian, persecuted by all the people who don't like Jews. And after all this war and the suffering that the Jews went in Bulgaria, everybody wanted to have his own place to live and to have a family, to be happy and not to be persecuted. We went from Bulgaria with a train through Yugoslavia to Italy, and from Italy we boarded a ship, many of us, you know, like sardines. Yeah, it was very... And by the way, that's the first time that I saw what's a green olive. I never knew what a green olive is in Bulgaria, so that's the first time I saw a green olive that came with the stuff that we ate. And so we were like sardines and with rough sea, but somehow we arrived to Haifa. In Israel, we arrived exactly in 1953. And the funny thing is that in 1953, around, I don't remember exactly what the month, but Stalin, which was a very great leader in Russia, and admired by everybody, because at that time nobody knew that Stalin was such a big monster and killed so many people. But Stalin died, and we mourned Stalin, and then we left for Israel. Only later we understood that Stalin was a very bad personality, as they say.
Did you suffer persecutions or
in Bulgaria?
Or hardships in Bulgaria?
Oh yes, definitely. No, I'll tell you, there were a lot of stuff. First of all, I remember my brother, who was older than I was by 7 years. He was obliged, like my parents, they were obliged to have a Jewish star, a yellow Jewish star. I was underage at that time, so I didn't have it. But he had, and he was really beaten severely just from some gang of anti-Semites. And my mother and father had a lot of problems being Jewish, and we were accused of being spies, just for the sake of being accused of something. Or when I was in a summer camp, I was in a coach in a summer camp, and at the end, when everybody received the flowers for the wonderful work, and the children were so happy with my work, everybody was happy, and I made a show, and everybody was very, very happy with the show. At the end, one small group from the children that were out of the camp, because they knew that I am Jewish, they came and gave me a bouquet of, not of flowers, but of thorns. And my mother made a big scandal about this. Not that it helped much, but at least they took the children out of the party, from the children's party. And but that was very upsetting for me. When I went to Israel, I was accepted in a kibbutz for just 5 months, and I went there to study Hebrew because I didn't know Hebrew. And I was supposed to work half day study. So for me, being in a kibbutz was a totally new experience that I never had before, and I never knew, of such a community way of life. And so it was really very exciting to see how all the people live together, how they work together, they share the profits and contribute whatever they can.
Did you learn new things?
And what I learned is just this part. For me, it was very new. And I learned Hebrew, of course, and I started to learn about the history of Israel, and it was very exciting to see that Israel did everything they could to make a desert to a green oasis.
Did you get married in this time? Or?
Yes, I got married, and we had 2 children, and then we decided...
Did you have were you in Israel at that time?
Oh yes, in Israel, yes. I met my husband on the stage. We met on the stage. He was also on the stage, an actor. And we got married. We had, the 2 children we have. They're your friends. And then we decided one day to a little bit see the world with while the children are still small. And we decided to see America. So we came here, and seeing America became a little bit long period. So we are about 20 years here. When I came to here, I really hoped that America is going to be a country where the differences are not going to be so accentuated, and that everything is much more equal than what I experienced in my childhood. But unfortunately, as soon as I came here in this house, one night there was a big bang, and I woke up and ran to see what's going on, and I saw 2 swastikas. You know what swastika is? The Nazi sign on my doors, and also somebody threw a rock through the window. That means because they knew that we are Jewish from the children. They knew the children in school are Jewish. So some anti-Semitic group knew and started the usual,
Did you notify the police?
We notified the police. They came in to call details, but they couldn't. They said, "Oh, this happened." So just,
Did anything?
Nothing happened. Nothing. I thank God that nothing more happened, but this was really devastating for me, because I expected that at least in America the children will grow as free as hopefully in Israel.
Hi, my name is Carrie Malky, and this is my family tree. This is my mother's side. This is her great-grandfather and grandmother, and these are their children, my grandfather and my great-aunt. And this is my great-grandfather and grandmother from my grandmother's side. This is my grandmother and all my grandmother's brothers and sisters who were all killed in the war. And that's my mother and my mother's brother and sister. This is my father's family tree. This is my father's great-grandparents, and my grandfather and my great-aunt, and my great-grandparents from my grandmother's side, and my grandmother, and my grandmother's brothers and sisters who were also all killed in the war. And this is my father and my father's sister and brother. The route that my father took to come, my father's parents took to come to America. They started off in Poland, and then they went to Russia, then France, then Israel, and then they finally came to New York, where they now live in Brooklyn. And this is my mother's map, the route of how they came. They started off both in Poland, then my grandmother went to Romania and came back to Poland, and then went to Germany, where she met my grandfather, and they traveled together to Israel, then to Denver, then to Chicago, and now they live in Clifton. And now I'd like to introduce the greatest grandmother in the world, my grandmother, Hindiki Chavez.
I came to America because my father was already here in America. He was liberated in Germany from the Americans, and he wanted me to be here with him.
Was it difficult to pay for the trip?
It was not easy to pay for the trip.
Where did you get the money to pay for it then?
We used to work, and we saved up, and that was the money that we came to America with.
How did you come?
We came by boat.
Was it an eventful journey, a difficult trip?
It was a very, very difficult trip. When the Nazis came in, they closed the ghetto, and we were in the ghetto for quite a few weeks, and then we were taken to Auschwitz. We lost everybody, and we lost everything.
But you found your father at the end.
My father came home in 1946. I went home, and I was waiting for him. Finally, he arrived, and he didn't want to stay there. He said, "Let's go. I don't want to be here." So we went to Germany, and there I met your grandfather, and I married in 1947. Then we lived there for quite a few years in Munich.
Did you leave family members behind?
Where, in Europe?
Yeah.
Nobody, because everybody was killed in Auschwitz.
But you said that your brother was in the English army.
My brother went to Israel in '39, and he went to the English army, right? He was in Germany. As a matter of fact, when I was liberated, I went up to the English Council, and I knew that he must be there. And they said he left only a day before I came up to the English Council. And then from England, he went back to Israel.
What did you bring with you from the old country, from Europe?
Nothing except a needlepoint picture that I found on the attic. They took off the frame because they probably didn't know what it is. Over the piano, that needlepoint, it's very beautiful. That was the only one thing that I found back home.
Did you keep in touch with any friends or family in Europe?
Not really, because everybody was deported. Everybody went to Auschwitz from there.
What kind of a job did you have in America?
In America, we used to live in the Bronx. I was working in Yankee Stadium, in the gift shop, and in Chase Stadium in the gift shop.
Did you have financial difficulties when you first came to America?
We sure did. I was working. Your grandfather was working very hard. He had 3 jobs. He was an insurance man, he was a salesman, and he went even to wash dishes in a restaurant, only to make a living to support his family.
Hi, my name is Alana Stelmach, and this is my family tree. Over here, this is my brother and me. This is my mother and my uncle, my grandparents, and my great-grandfather. This is my father's side. This is him over here. Then this is my grandfather and my grandparents and my grandfather's father. This is my mom. My parents came from Odessa, Ukraine. Next they went to Lvov. Then they went to someplace else. Then they went to Vienna. Later on they went to Rome. Finally they came to New York City. Now I'm going to interview my parents, Alex and Irina Stelmach.
What did you expect in America?
What we expected is that we didn't expect much. We wanted just to have an opportunity to be where we wanted to be. And we knew that definitely will be an opportunity here. We didn't worry about working hard.
That didn't bother us. You know, we are hard-working people. That didn't scare us.
In Russia, you said that you suffered many persecutions. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, I could write a book on it. It will take a couple of hours to give you a few examples, but basically, everywhere you go, they let you know that you are a third-class citizen. We have a stamp on a passport saying that you are a Jew, and that's how they know.
Did you find America to be what you expected?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Can you tell some striking similarities or differences between Europe and America? Like when you came to America, you
New York is America for us. So when we saw the tall buildings, it was very impressive, very tall. The skyscrapers, that's the first thing that you notice. Everything else is basically...
And stretch limousines in the airport when we just arrived. We didn't know what it was.
Were you hoping they were for you?
No, we didn't know what it was at first. It was so funny. We were looking out the window of the bus and just... We were amazed. We didn't know. We've never seen anything like this in our lives.
And I remember one time you told me that some people from Passaic came to Lubavitch and they started telling you about certain things about Judaism that you didn't know in Russia.
We didn't know anything yet. They came to our hotel room, and it was so funny. We didn't know how to meet them. We didn't know.
They spoke Russian.
They spoke Russian. Yeah, they were dressed as Lubavitches are, and we didn't know what they wore.
We were very confused.
We were very, very confused.
We've never seen Russians dressed that way. Then they realized they're not Russians, they're Jews from that came from Russia as well, and they were Babishes, and they told us we have to do this and that.
And that's how we started being real Jews. They explained that we really are Jews, even though at some point in Russia, I think we were beginning to wonder, so assimilated we were becoming.
True. They didn't know much about
Yeah.
it. For me personally, the best new thing that I learned is to learn how to read.
It didn't take us long. We were young. It didn't take us long. Hi, Smokey.
Hello.
Hi, Smokey.
You're in the picture now. Get off.
We got our cat because our first major apartment was full of rodents, and that's why we have our little cat there.
And now we love her. She doesn't hunt anymore.
What kind of jobs did you have in Russia?
I was driving a truck.
In Russia? That's funny, because when he came to America, he was driving a truck too.
And I was a shift engineer in Russia. I was working for a computer company, and I had a lot of people under me, and here I had to start all over again, which didn't bother me.
And what kind of jobs, when you came to America, what kind of jobs did you have?
I became a clerk. I was making $125 a week, and I was so happy.
The class of 1995 gained a new student this year. We now introduce you to Alex Raphael, who came with his family from Ukraine only 2 years ago.
Why did you come to America?
Well, because my parents and me wanted to live better and have better jobs. I don't know.
Where did you live in Europe?
In Ukraine, the capital, Kyiv.
When you came, was your trip difficult?
No, because we just came by plane and that's it. Not like next time I go by boat, by train.
Did you leave any family members behind?
Yeah, everybody.
Do you miss them?
A lot. But my grandmother and grandfather are gonna come in about a few weeks.
What was school like there?
Well, the problem of the school was much more difficult than here. It was more difficult to study.
Were the buildings and the general places different than in America?
Not really. They were the same height, I guess.
Is food different in Russia than it is in America?
Well, you know, every country has different food. Their native food.
Did you bring everything with you or left some things behind? And did you miss it?
A lot.
Did you miss it?
Not really.
Was there anything special there that you really enjoyed?
No, just my house. And
What's the difference between how religious you were there and how religious you were here?
well, I didn't really know a lot about Jews. We just had a synagogue there that we went to, but there wasn't that much.
How did you come? By plane,
by plane, and that's it.
Is there a difference in clothing that people wear?
No.
No, not at all?
No.
Are the houses different in Russia?
No.
Do you miss your friends?
Some of them, not all of them.
Were you happy that you came here?
Yeah.
What did you usually do in your spare time when you were in the Ukraine?
Go outside, play with my friends. Go to my grandmother's house.
Are the streets there paved like regular streets here? Or they're just like...
They're wider. There isn't that much people there walking around.
You said before that you play outside and do something out in America. And playtime?
Not really, because we have a lot of playgrounds there. More than here.
What is the best new thing you learned in America?
I don't know. English.
Do you like it more here than you did in Russia?
I guess so.
Is the traveling any different from there and from here?
Well, We have trains, we have buses, we have cars.
When you left Ukraine, was anything important happening there? Were there any political things happening?
Well, everybody hated Jews, that's why we left.
What kind of sports did you play when you were there?
Soccer, no football, no baseball. And kickball, well not kickball, I mean, you know. And that's it.